Jesus has shown why he associates with sinners. Because he values them. He values those souls. And he seeks them out, that they might be saved. They might experience regeneration and the joy in heaven that follows. But God has one more lesson. Jesus has one more lesson to drive home. And so that's why we go on in this parable continues in verse 25. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of his servants and asked what was going on. Your brother has come, he replied, and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has him back, safe and sound. A very good summary of what had just taken place. But notice the older brother became angry and refused to go in. Again, we have here another great irony. The brother who had been on the outside is now on the inside. And the brother who had been on the inside is now on the outside. Again, a reminder of the echoes of Jesus' words that the last shall be first and the first shall be last. That's what we see here in this parable. We see here also the father's joy in contrast to the son's anger, who regards his father's actions as perhaps a sign of favoritism. Obviously, it's all a matter of perspective. So the passage goes on. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you killed the fattened calf for him. And in effect, the older son is saying, this isn't just. You are not being a just father. You never gave me, if we make an analogy to the young goat and the calf, says, you never gave me a Big Mac while you're giving my brother a 4-course meal. And I think those Big Macs may actually contain goat meat. I'm not sure about that. They just might. I'll have to check on that.
More calories.
But then notice, I like the way he says this, but when this son of yours has squandered his property. You know, I think we do this sometimes, don't we? Or at least in our family we do. If one of the kids does something good, Nancy will say, oh, you won't believe what Daniel did today. All right, that's great. But if they do something bad, she'll say, oh, you won't believe what your son did today. It's never our son at that point. It's your son. Well, that's what the brother is doing here. He's not saying, this brother of mine. He's saying, this son of yours. He's scolding his father here. Obviously, it's a self-righteous introspection that he has here. He's looking at himself. And he's feeling that he has been dealt with unjustly. And yet the point that the son is missing here is that the father's actions were gracious. The younger son didn't deserve what he got, but it was grace from the father that made this possible. Repentance results in God's kindness, which wipes the slate clean. And that's the reason for rejoicing. The brother is so consumed by that whole issue of fairness that he misses entirely the joy in seeing the transformation that has taken place in his brother. He misses that completely. Well, the father speaks to this older son. He speaks to his concerns, and then in reference to the issue of his younger brother. And certainly the father's reply is very gentle. He says, my son, the father said, you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. He acknowledges that the son had been faithful. He acknowledges the special place that he has in his heart. He acknowledges and he reminds that older son that he always had access to the Father. In a sense, he always had access to that celebration. He says, look, all the animals are yours. The calf, they're all yours. And then he turns to the other issue of his younger brother. The The father will not allow this complaint to stand, nor will he allow the older son to separate himself from the family. And so he says, but we had to celebrate and be glad. Because, and now notice how the father words this, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. He says, this young man is not just my son, he's your brother. And it not only is appropriate that we celebrate, but it's the right thing for us to do. The story, interestingly, is left hanging. We do not know if the older brother comes in to celebrate or not. In literary terms, this is called an open ending to the story. What will he do? Well, Jesus listeners, and that includes us, the story is written that way so that we all put ourselves into that story.